In every neighbourhood, in every town, there are hundreds and hundreds of people who are starting projects. We call them creators, freelancers, community builders, community organisers. There's just so many people around. And what Tilley and I get into in here is about social capital and ecosystem winning, which sound like very kind of blurby project high-end terms, but really it's just how we all connect in the local area. And there's loads of different ways to do this, and a lot of people in the industry are thinking about, for a long time, since the birth of co-working, thinking about how a co-working space can replace that community centre, place of worship, up on the corner, and where people can go and work. And that's what we're getting to today. It's one of many ongoing conversations we have here on the Co-working Values podcast. There's loads of links in the show notes. And we talk about our event, which is happening in February in London. And it's particularly we're looking for 150 co-working community builders to get together for the day and talk about everything in this podcast. This is one of many, so let's get into the show.
Hello, folks, and welcome to today's Co-working Values podcast. And in our studio is Tilley Harris. Tilley, my dear, what are you known for, and what would you like to be known for?
Oh, wow. I'm the co-founder of AKOU, and we measure social impact, and we like to be known for the fact that we're obsessed with social capital and networks, and showing people the magic that social capital can create for their business and their mission and their movements.
That sounds really easy. So today we're going to talk about ecosystem winning and social capital, which are still things I'm struggling to explain like a coherent human being, but I'm like really, really excited about. And I think it's always been around in the co-working conversation. And I think, that's why I'm hanging out with you so much, Tilley, so I can string a sentence together about social capital that other people understand. What do you want to tackle first? Is it ecosystem winning or social capital?
We could go into ecosystem winning.
And what is ecosystem winning?
So the way that we see it is that definitely in the social sector, it's a lot about solving problems, which is really, really important. And there are a lot of problems to solve. But when you're only thinking about problem solving, you're only seeing problems. And often we can get a bit lost in seeing the possible, like what are the possibilities and opportunities that are out there. And when you see possibility and opportunity, then you have options and choices. And we think that the ecosystem winning concept is really exciting because it invites us all to think about how we can win more together rather than you're kind of on your own trying to solve these problems and, overcome all of the obstacles that are thrown at us daily. So ecosystem winning is really about like working as a collective to access more opportunities together, and then hopefully that solves a lot of the problems.
And because like that just sounds like a very good co-working space in one thing. And one of my worries about co-working is there's this, I have been part of co-working spaces that kind of open up in slightly shitty neighborhoods, and then all the nice people from nice neighborhoods go to the very inexpensive new co-working space in the, slightly run down neighborhood. And the people from that neighborhood, they're not denied access, but they don't feel like they can be part of that place. So I suppose maybe like, what's the difference between an ecosystem, a winning ecosystem, and a clique? Because I feel that's a danger that I see that happening in London actually and it worries me.
Yeah, that's a really, really good point. I think I guess if you think about where the term ecosystem has come from, it's obviously come from nature and science, and that you need, for a thriving ecosystem like in a forest, you need diversity. You Monoculture forests are actually, part of a lot of climate change issues that are happening right now. So you really need diversity, and you need like the messiness that comes with that, or the complexity that comes with it. So I think it's like being really, really aware of who is in that ecosystem and what are the contributions that each is making to the whole, so that we change our focus on what's valuable, I think, and that's still in progress. Like, we're not there yet. We're having to really think about different types of capital, that not just the financial capital, which kind of has been dominant, but that all the different types of capital and exchanges and contributions that create value for the whole ecosystem.
What because I like, what are those different? Not, don't list every single one of them, but like, what are examples of capitals? Because we can talk about them in future podcasts and stuff. But it seems, it's, until I started looking into this, it seems like capital, and it's all about money, and that's it. But there's like, is probably the best known example on this podcast is the Islington Affordable Workplace Scheme, and they talk a lot about social capital and social value, and how it's probably the first London example I've been part of where I've seen like Space for start, and it's been going nearly 10 years now. And it is a lot of that kind of, I think actually that is an ecosystem winning model that's actually happening on Fordyke Road in Finsbury Park. But what are the other types of capital? Because I don't think people really understand or know them, even though they might hear them in documents and impact statements.
Yeah, and I reckon we're probably in a time right now where we get to define different types of capital, because there is no agreed system for these different types of currencies, the invisible currencies that get exchanged. So we have a kind of blank page in a way. There's lots of different theories, but communities kind of need to come together and look at what is being exchanged here and what is creating value. Until you kind of do a bit of that audit and a bit of that discussion, then you don't know the capital that is happening and circulating in your co-working space or in your community. So where we've done this kind of studies, if you want to call it that, then social capital is obviously about trust and connection and relationships, so relational capital. Or there's creative capital, so knowledge and skill exchanges that are happening, that are being shared, that not for a price, but just for support. Emotional support could be a type of capital, if you wanted to term it that. We've really been interested for 10 years now of like looking at invisible currencies. So social capital is a currency that gets exchanged and utilized for all sorts of things, but it just isn't kind of recognized and documented and made official. Data can be another currency. So I know I'm kind of switching between capital and currency, but it is kind of like the same thing.
No, I know what you mean. What got you? I feel like a bright podcaster now. So, Tilly, what first got you interested in invisible currencies? What? Why? What got your attention on that? Because I'm interested in that too, but I can't remember when I wasn't thinking about it, and it must have been when all the sharing economy stuff came out. But there's this like urge of like, there's got to be something else.
Yeah, so originally, me and my co-founder were working as photojournalists. So I think there's something about you have to be looking for the invisible stories that are playing out, and how do you capture them? And really, like, photographs in terms of social change will only take you so far. And that's when we started to get interested in data, because we could see that you could really use that as a currency. And we thought it would be even more interesting if you could capture data about the things that really matter in communities but are so often overlooked or misunderstood, and just not recognised. And that led us to social capital and networks, because that is happening all the time, every day. But the people that make decisions and decide where money and resources go can't see that, and so often don't understand it.
That is, the people that make decisions is the narrative I'm chasing at the moment is how local governments and big government like overlooks the role of co-working spaces. And there's like Felicia at the University of Bath has done a lot of research into this, and we started a conversation about it, or actually Stacey started a conversation about this, which was already going. She just shone light on it, which is in the LinkedIn co-working group. And all that little bit there you just described is what I don't even want to say good co-working spaces, because we kind of talk about like, yes, amazing pro co-working spaces, but there's so many people, and you've met them at our London Coworking Assembly events, so many people who have like thrown some people in a room, and what you're talking about here is actually happening. And I'm so confused I can't construct the next sentence, but I just don't see, I can't understand why local authorities, some not more, I don't understand why more local authorities don't make the connection between the social capital and ecosystem that's available in a co-working space, and what they need to do to like make their local area function. Have you got any idea why that could be, or is it just because it's so new, or they're stuck in their ways, or just pen pushing?
Yeah, I think that we're at a really, really exciting time right now, where I guess because we're on the brink of a completely new industrial revolution with AI coming, and it is a real like crossroads point in time where we all industries and all people get to think about how are we going to move forward in this moment, and how will that define how we work. And suddenly with the human role in our day-to-day lives is suddenly kind of really being put under the microscope in a really good way, because we don't want to lose that. And I think we've had a long time of like just being very set in certain ways, set in certain behaviors, and valuing numbers and money and certain processes and certain ways of doing things. And there is a chance right now to rework that, and for everybody to kind of move out of those set behaviors. And what I loved about the first event that I ever come to of yours, Bernie, was feeling that the intangible magic of what it means to really create real spaces and bring real people together in real life, and feel what it means to just intuitively understand each other in a space, and the mission that everybody's on, and wanting to really listen to each other and connect with each other and hear each other and think of the possible. You weren't you really created a space at one of the events I came to that was like inviting people to like stretch their imaginations and think about all the ways that co-working can serve communities and change the world and change the way we think. And I think this it is a great like template for all these different like things that are at play right now. So technology's place in community connection, real life connection, and community hubs and local economies and micro businesses all coming together in the template that is co-working. And yeah, I'm excited for more of your events, basically.
There's that as you're saying that, and thank you. The amount of conversations it took to get there, and like the technology thing is definitely there's so much of that AI conversation, or like I don't want to say AI because that makes it sound like another brotopia thing, but like Kofi has massively influenced like how we think about AI. And then it's not like, oh, they've got this super gadget on my phone. It's like, what is this going to do to the workforce, our work, our creativity, how we build our own economies, what is possible now, all that future of work conversation, because that has a knock-on effect to our local areas and just how society functions. So rather than, it's very easy, particularly when you're in the Old Street area, it's very easy to get jacked up about technology, but then like the wider impact on that of everything. And we were talking before we came on about how we connect with each other. And as we've been talking through here, it's almost like in 2008, we started to sort of move closer together because of social media. And then, like you said, in 2016, we started to move further away, and kind of social media is like fragmented and super connected people. And I'd like to say, I know, I see it coming, but I hope that we're going to be able to get back to more like face-to-face human connection. Do you want to say a bit about that? Because I know you've got loads of that in your head, but I'm not really sure how to construct a question to hand over to you.
Yeah, I think what's really interesting right now is watching how social finance is evolving as a concept and as a way of like distributing capital, and monitoring the return on investment of that capital. And there's this thing that's evolved called the golden share, and you can give that golden share to something like the environment, and in your company, like, let's say. And basically what it does is it allows, like, say, the environment to have a seat at the table on your board. So you always have to think about, well, what would the environment say about this, if it was at the table in the board, when you're making decisions about how you move forward with your company, your organization, and your finances. And I think that is interesting when you're thinking about the mission of your business, like who is at the table, like how are you making sure that like all voices are there as much as possible when you're kind of making decisions to move forward with your mission. So sorry, I don't know, that doesn't really maybe that didn't quite answer your question.
It was interesting enough. It made me it made me think of that Apple advert where Mother Nature's at the table, which was a bit of a cheesy PR stunt, but it worked really well. I think because what I took from that is like considering the impact of like what you do in your, what a cheesy line, considering the impact of what you do in your business, but it can have a very, it sounds like impact 101, doesn't it? But like it can have a very negative impact, or it can have a positive impact, and how you, like, I get a bit exhausted with people talking about B Corps and impact and everything like this, and I think it, like, particularly from working with Urban MBA and Faceworks, to like actually be out in the street and meeting people and helping people in the in very vulnerable circumstances, like economically, and in Faceworks in Lewisham. Like Lewisham is a borough of refuge, so a lot of refugees come, and they're not, wrapped in blankets. They just like had to leave their country, and usually that's Afghanistan, Iran, or Ukraine, and they arrive in Lewisham and they are supported. But then, like, what do they do? And that is, that's like really, really hard work for the people arriving and for Stephen and the team working in Faceworks. And then they've used a co-working space to turn that around. And a lot of people know the Urban MBA story, and they're in Wenlock Street, and they're putting loads of effort into connecting with local. It's taken like 2 years for them to build relationships with people in the local area to come in and do workshops in the Urban MBA thing. And it's like this daily grind of working out how to connect with people. Do we do leaflets? Do we do social media? Knocking on doors, going and being connected with the local community. And that's like I've gone into that big explanation there because that is the grind that creates social capital.
Thank you. That was some really, really amazing examples. And I think what I was trying to say with the golden share is that there is it was kind of linked to what you were saying about what Kofi says about all the possibilities that AI and technology could bring to communities and local economies, that we are in a space now where we can get really imaginative about how we utilize resource and how we change the way we're looking at money. Because I think that is a huge thing that we've got to all battle with. We've just been running a project with the Walcott Foundation, who wants to change the way they kind of distribute grants to micro service providers in Lambeth, so that they know they are funding what they really need to be funding to make a difference and have an impact. So thinking about the flow of capital and who accesses it, and how easy do they make it for services that are under-resourced to find and access the resources they need. And we just had to create a year, like 12 months worth of time for these service providers just to sort of like shed a lot of stress and burnout and like these defense mechanisms they have, because we set up a self-care program so that for a while they could just take some small pots of money and spend it on care for themselves, for their team. And we did that for 12 months so that we could then go into year 2. And now we start thinking, okay, if there's this pot of money, how decisions get made about how it's spent? How do you access that money? And I think just that, like, it is about money at the end of the day, but there's so much more that has to happen before you even get to that thing about how's the money spent, because we're all have been through so much and we can't keep coming at the same problem with the same like mindset. We really, really need to change mindset about what is possible and what is really needed beneath the like knee-jerk response place that we're all in.
And you know what, Tilley? What we're going to do is we're going to get the London Coworking Assembly folks together all in a room in February for Unreasonable Connection and to talk about all this kind of stuff. And I know you know that. I just needed to find a cheesy way to introduce it. But the like talking to each other is, we do that monthly event, and there's a link in the show notes to it where people come to the hour-long online event. We pose a question at the beginning, like, what does it mean to be a co-working space, or something better than that? And then people who we call co-working community builders, who are people who own co-working spaces or run co-working spaces, like community managers, just getting rooms of 4 and talk to each other for around 35 to 40 minutes. And then we come back and say what happened. And now we're going to do that in an all-day version at the end of February in London, and you'll come to the event and you'll basically work in small groups all day. So there's no superstar speakers or no headline attractions. It's just talking to each other. So you get to a really, I'm sure you've done this too, Tilley. You get to go very deep. And how you were talking about those people needed like 12 months to get their head in gear. I think sometimes you arrive to an event and it takes you half the event to get your head into gear. And the way we're going to set this up is we'll do a lot of chats and talking before we get to the event, the physical in-person event. So when you arrive in the room, your conversation and thought process is already in flow. Do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, I think I want to actually just ask you a question, Bernie, if that's okay. What do you think is needed for the co-working industry and movement for them to be able to really kind of amplify ecosystem winning and shift mindset about how important their role is in the future of communities?
This is not a new thought. This is kind of the whole point of the Co-working Values podcast. And I probably wouldn't have said that when we started it, but I just meet so many people that are doing things and they think they're the only person and they're slogging their guts out. And it's like, oh, like Stephen, why don't you go and talk to Kofi? And Kofi, why don't you go and talk to Hannah? And Hannah, why don't you go and talk to Elena? And Stacey, you should talk to Suzanne. And, loads of people that have been on this podcast. And so many, I think this is a micro small business thing anyway. I don't think it's just co-working, but there's so many people that are out to build a business that is sustainable and make a difference in their local community. And I've never found like a readily available ongoing conversation. They do exist. So I suppose part of it is like connecting all the conversations that are already happening, and then people can share resources and share ideas and ultimately feel like they're not the only one trying to do this. And I really have had hundreds and hundreds of people come to calls and podcasts and events and go, oh, I thought it was just me. And it's almost like there's this secret movement of people that want to, build ecosystems and are all building ecosystems and are building social capital, and they just need to find each other. And that's happened to me. Like ever since I went to Co-working Europe in 2014 in Lisbon, that's how I got into all this. Does that actually answer your question? Because that was more of like a memoir than an answer, maybe.
No, it was amazing. And I just want to ask one more question. Obviously, there's been so much talk since the pandemic about how office space is like a struggling kind of industry in all senses of the word, and that includes co-working spaces. And do you think that there's enough recognition and celebration of what co-working spaces achieve and how they are thriving? Despite the struggle, there's still so much
there's celebration because people who have PR companies and have someone they can pay to do with their social media saying like this is going on, and then I see people make it through the doors of number 10, and they probably make it through the doors of number 10 because they are they're a business, not because they're a co-working space. And there's always this double-edged sword of getting in the door of number 10. It's like being a winner and a loser at the same time. You've been acknowledged by Keir Starmer, so you've got a seat at the table, but like it's oh god, now I have to explain it all over again, And I think like there's 32 London boroughs, and I don't know the exact number, but there's some London boroughs that are like really killing it with for want of a better term, like really thriving with like Walthamstow and Islington in particular, the ones I know best, and Lewisham actually are really on it with what a co-working space can mean to their local area. They know, they realised, and they put work into, like, if we work with local co-working spaces, that will help build community in the borough and keep revenue in the borough. And I used to live in Redbridge, which are so far behind, they think they're last. Me and several other co-working consultants have submitted reports to them about being paid by them, and submitted reports about why they need a co-working space in their local area. And Redbridge has the last time I checked this, which was like 3 years ago, Redbridge has the highest number of small businesses, or highest number of micro businesses, I'm going to say, registered in out of all the London boroughs. And they're still scratching their heads about whether a co-working space would be a good idea for them. So there's that end of the recognition thing as well. And I'm going to start waffling, so I'm going to stop and hand it back to you, Tilley.
No, that sounds, yeah, there's so much more I'd love to dig into that about like, individuals from those communities that have benefited from that hub being there, because there's such a lack of community hubs now, from neighbourhood centres to youth centres. Like, they've all kind of been swept away a little bit. And so like, actually members of a community knowing that they can go to this place and access all of these different services, or a network of people, would be really cool actually to, at the event, hear more of that. Like, what has the impact been on different groups and different lives?
Well, there's two examples there. Sorry.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Sorry.
Like in a sort of very local, independent way, there's like, Faceworks and Urban MBA and Space 4 in London. And then at a kind of more kind of branded level, Patch and Town Square and Arc Club are three, I'm going to call them brands and probably get punched by the owners, but they're three co-working brands that are deliberately opening a business, but they're deliberately getting into the local area. Like Teresa at Patch in Wickham did this epic, like, is exactly what sort of thing I want to see in co-working spaces. She did an event which was not like how to boost your business. It was like, it wasn't like it actually was. I can't remember the name of the organization, but it's about teenagers and phones. So a load of people who are parents in the local area and parents of members of the co-working space came and had this big conversation about children and phones. And it was really, that's a really, really important topic, and it's connecting to the local area. So there's loads of examples like that. So I think that is all we can cram into this episode, Tilley. We're going to have to come back and do some more. Where can people find you online?
On LinkedIn, or at www.akou.co.uk.
We shall put that. We'll put all the links in the show notes, folks. And to get on the list that we will one day start for, I don't want to call it a list, the pre-community for the event in London. If you go to londoncoworkingassembly.com, and when you go there, you can sign up for the 5 biggest mistakes co-working community builders make and how to avoid them, which is our free 5-day email course, and be on that list. And then we will start to talk about the event and show you how you can get involved. But wherever you are in the world, be careful out there. It is a jungle.